Welcome to Stowbutter's Elite TFO training, featuring Infected Space Elite. Let's start with objectives.
First, destroy the initial Borg fleet in under 90 seconds. This is mandatory on Elite. Second, destroy all nanite generators and transformers on either side of the gateway, with the optional objective to prevent any nanite probes from repairing the transformers. Lastly, destroy the gateway and Borg cube to complete the TFO. This mission must be completed in under 15 minutes.
Thank you. On to risks and rewards. This TFO requires moderate coordination to play well on Elite, with all optionals and without team deaths. It is possible to complete in a public group, but usually a tank is needed for a deathless run. The enemy threat level is moderately high, as Borg drain shields and deal a decent amount of damage, and there are many Borg ships. In particular, the gateway fight can be a test of your survivability. For rewards, this TFO awards a moderate amount of Omega or Fleet Marks, along with a chance of Enchained Current Pieces. Lastly, this operation can be very short with a well-built team composition at under 2 minutes, which is one of the reasons that this TFO is used for DPS benchmark testing. The adversaries on this operation are Borg. Borg vessels, at the sphere rank and higher, have a powerful shield drain ability, so encounters with them need to account for a low shield uptime. If flown properly, there will be nearly 20 Borg vessels and 2 Dreadnought-class enemies in a single location once the second transformer is destroyed, so a high volume of damage should be expected at the gateway fight. For this operation, we will speak broadly for general completion, as well as some tactics for achieving higher DPS on benchmark runs. Very high-end specific strategies are not covered here and would deserve their own video. If you are coordinating with a team for DPS runs, you will want to have a tank. If your primary DPS is above 300k without support, a dedicated support build would also help boost the primary DPS. If you are bringing one support, that ship should have Gravity Well 3 to pull all spheres and probes onto the gateway at that segment of the TFO. We call this the anchor support. If the team has more than one support, then it's better to have a commander tactical ship for the second support for providing abilities like Attack Pattern Beta 3. We call this a spotter support. Regardless, if your team's DPS is above 600k for the primary player, then that player should probably be the only DPS player. If you're below 600k, it might be advisable to have 2 or even 3 DPS players. This will likely be the case on more casual or unorganized runs. Regardless of chasing DPS or not, this TFO has 4 fights. The first encounter, left transformer, right transformer, and then the gate and cube. Teams should generally move in that order unless coordinated otherwise. Because the team is heading to the left transformer first, attack the central cube, then the right assimilator, then the left assimilator to ensure you're in optimal position to move to the left transformer as quickly as possible once the last ship goes down. Avoid pulling nanite probes onto the transformers if possible. Large gravity wells with high control expertise or other pull effects should be reserved for the first fight in the gateway to avoid attracting the probes and spheres from the gateway while fighting at the transformers. Once the first transformer is down, move as quickly as possible to the right transformer. Fighting in the middle instead of bypassing the ships there is a mistake, especially if pursuing higher DPS as it leads to longer combat time. Flanking positions for the transformers and gateways are not intuitive. At the start of the map, your ship is already at the flanking angle for all of the Borg structures. Do not move to what is considered the back of the structure from your starting position's perspective in an attempt to flank it. Now, combat footage will be shown to illustrate the principles discussed previously. The goal of this section is not to illustrate perfect piloting, but provide an example of how to successfully complete the map with all objectives and without dying. Tank builds are successful on this map due to the large number of enemies clustered around central areas, so the tank can defend the entire team at once. While it is possible to complete this TFO deathlessly and without a tank, having a tank on a coordinated run is extremely helpful, almost to the point of necessity. Note that in this video, the previous version of this map with cubes instead of assimilators is shown and a tactical cube at the end. For all practical purposes, this was a cosmetic change only and has no bearing on the tactics. It's a good idea to pre-buff some abilities right before combat start, like emergency power to weapons, attract fire, and suppression barrage if you have them. Make sure to set threatening stance active. You should be able to help your team clean up the smaller targets so they can focus on the bigger structures, especially if they are a single target build. Gauge your team's speed as well. You don't want to leave them behind or be late to the transformer. Once the mission starts, briefly hit full impulse, then immediately drop it once you get into range and start firing. Focus your fire on central targets and angle it to hit as many enemies as possible, approaching within 2 kilometers of the cube and assimilators. In the initial fight, target the central cube, then the right assimilator, and then the left one. If you have a shield offline effect, it's best to use that on the cube along with any other supportive consoles and abilities if you are on a more supportive tank. Make sure both assimilators are down before you leave. Once the initial fleet is destroyed, activate a speed boost like evasive maneuvers and fly to the left transformer. At the left transformer, briefly engage the assimilator above it, and then turn your attention to the transformer itself. Angle your ship such that your forward weapons are hitting the transformer, but are also in range to splash all the generators. Once the transformer and assimilator are destroyed, immediately move as fast as possible to the right side, using any speed boosts available. Bypass the Borg ships in the middle, engaging them only while flying past. Position similarly as at the left transformer, and repeat. Once all the structures and the assimilator on the right side are destroyed, turn and engage the gateway, using any speed boosts available to approach it quickly. At the gate, use either any DPS boosting actives you have on heavy tank or supportive items on a debuff or support tank. Organized runs should have a strong gravity well to cluster probes and spheres on the gate for maximum effect. If you have one, this is the place to use it. Ensure you are between the gateway and the cube so you can defend the team from both threats. Lastly, turn and engage the cube at the end. Use any shield offlines you have to knock its shields out and make it more vulnerable, as well as debuffs or support items that are off cooldown. If the team properly swept the map of any other probes, spheres, or generators, the mission should complete once the cube is destroyed. In this case, we were not coordinated and I had to sweep up 2 spheres at the end, but either way the mission completes once all enemies are defeated. The tethered non-baryonic asteroid reputation trait can be used to help drag loose ships at the right side over to the gate. Captain, if this breakdown helped you in your quest to play Stowe better, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. The link to the specific build used for this tutorial is in the description. For more guides and builds, check us out at www.stobetter.com.